If you've ever seen BBC's Sherlock series, you might remember this scene.
He's not going to be doing much talking for a while. We may as well go.
His what?
Oh, his mind palace. It's a memory technique, a sort of mental map.
Now, believe it or not, mind palaces are actually a real thing. Their official name is the Method of Loci, and it's a technique that was invented ages ago by ancient Greek orators to remember the structure of really long speeches. And really fascinatingly, it's still used to this day by people known as Grand Masters of Memory. And yeah, that's also a real thing. To earn this title, you have to be able to memorize the order of 1,000 random digits in under an hour, 10 decks of cards in under an hour, and 1 deck of cards in under 2 minutes. Randomized decks of cards and random numbers, these things are called unstructured information. It's information that doesn't have a predefined model and can't be predicted. And that makes memorizing unstructured information all the more difficult. Let's think of a random string of numbers, like a 10-digit phone number. That's 10 digits of unstructured information. There's nothing about any number in that sequence that predicts the number that comes afterwards. There's no link between two different numbers. And when there's no link between two different bits of unstructured information, our brain has a really hard time remembering what that information is. But luckily, the Method of Loci is a way that you can overcome this limitation of the working memory.
So Sherlock has a mental representation of a palace in his head. The palace has many different rooms, and Sherlock can store bits of information in any of these rooms, usually as visual stimuli. He walks and sometimes runs through his palace in his head, opening doors and looking at that stored information.
When Sherlock goes through his mind palace, he's doing so in a very particular order, opening each door in sequence. This is a procedure he's implanted into his long-term memory. And this is really the beauty of the Method of Loci. You use a framework that you've got in your long-term memory to bypass the limitations of the working memory. In other words, the Method of Loci is creating the missing link between two bits of unstructured information. This might seem a bit strange, but there's actually a lot of research that supports the use of this technique. In 1973, Bauer tested people's abilities to memorize 100 words, first without the Method of Loci, and then after teaching them this technique. Initially, they were only able to memorize 28 out of 100 words, but then after teaching them the Method of Loci, this bumped up to 73 out of 100 words. Other research even shows no cognitive difference between Grandmasters of Memory and regular people. In fact, it seems the Grandmaster's superpower is entirely attributable to the Method of Loci. This means that with enough practice, technically you or I could become Grandmasters of Memory. But unlike Sherlock, not all of us have access to a grand palace to use for memorization. Luckily, research shows that the Method of Loci is actually more effective when you use your route to work as a mental representation, storing information at memorable landmarks instead. So, I'll take you through a practical demonstration of the Method of Loci using my commute to uni. I'm going to be memorizing the ingredients I need to make pancakes. So I'll place these ingredients at memorable locations along my commute. It's also worth noting that when people use the Method of Loci, they often place information visually in a fashion that's bizarre or funny, as to aid their memorization and recall process. As I'm travelling along my route, I come to my first landmark, which is this nice hidden park that I often study at on my way to or from university. I'm going to place my reminder for maple syrup here. So I'll imagine that a big maple syrup bottle has appeared from the sky and is pouring syrup into the river. The second location I come across is this sign, and the friendly bird who lives near it. I'll place my reminder for bananas here. So I'll imagine that instead of a bird flying down and saying hello every time I ride past, it's actually a giant banana with wings. My third location is this parkour gym, where I want to place a pancake mix bottle. So I'll imagine that a pancake mix bottle has grown really buff arms and is swinging around on the equipment. My final location is this hedge maze on campus, where I want to remember to get blueberries. I'll imagine that the maze is some kind of trap out of Indiana Jones, where a giant blueberry rolls along inside the maze, threatening to squish anybody who goes inside. In summary, while the Method of Loci might initially seem like a far-fetched concept, it can be used to accomplish some truly amazing things. Maybe you want to use it to memorize some information for a test, or maybe, like the Greeks, you want to use it to memorize the structure of a speech. Something keeps on biting me.